This is sort 19 in the green sort. So again, we've put out our headers, first, second, and oddball. And as in the last two sorts, we're looking at the syllable that has the long O sound this time. So I'll ask for the bold words, and these will come out. And so we'll look and say, where's the O sound in toaster in the first or second syllable? So quite often kids will clap syllables, but sometimes I find it's easier if they hum them. So we would say toaster, or we would clap it, toaster, excuse me. And here's below. The reason humming seems to work is when they are trying to spell a longer word, they can spell it by the syllable, because so you can hum it, and then as you go through writing the first syllable, let's say I was writing toaster, I would go okay, that's toast, and I would spell that out and then say now I'm spelling the it's the second syllable. It's hard to explain, but it does work really well, even with kids who have some difficulties with syllabication. So there we go. There's our start. Let's start putting the words out. And I happen to know I have a lot in this category, so I'm going to make them in 2 lines. Okay, so we get owner and bowling and lower and lonely. And then somebody comes up with compose and awoke and alone and soapy and lonesome and coaster and soldier and suppose and decode. And again, they're always saying the word as they lay them down. Erode, nice little science word there. Postage, now that's something they might not know about. We might have to talk about that. What are stamps, and what is postage, and what is sending something in the post? Hostess, poster, loafer. And here I have approach and remote. And I have one oddball. This looks like it should be said Europe, but in fact we say Europe. And the O almost disappears. Europe. Almost sounds like up at the end. And so I don't know if that's a dialectical difference, if there's other places where they would say it more as an O sound. Europe, probably in French. But that's, in our dialect, that would be an oddball, even though it's spelt with a silent E syllable. So usually I'm making these labels right in front of them. So again, I'm going to ask, what are the spelling patterns we can see here? And so they're going to tell me, oh, well, we have an OA pattern. And I'll say, okay, let's find all the OA pattern words. Here's another one. And they're going to, this just reinforces how these words are spelled. Do we have any OA patterns here? Oh, just one. We do have one. Okay, so that's our first pattern. And then we would just make the card that says, and I'm going to tell them that when we write something in those, I'm trying to think what we call that, those slanted lines, that means that's the sound. So we have our first one, OA says O, and we have 3 of them here, and we have 1 on the other side. So there we go, that's our first one. I'm going to just move these down so they can see the connection between that and that. Okay, and then I'm going to start looking for other patterns, and they're going to, somebody is going to say, oh, we've got O-E here. So we've got our silent E sound, and so we're going to make that sign. Silent E thing spells O, and so we're going to find a few of those. What else have we got? I've moved everything now, so. Oh, I found another OA that we missed. There we go. And that's very much how it's going to happen. They're going to put things and move them around a few times while they settle it all out. And here they're going to see decode, awoke, compose, alone, explode, suppose, erode. There's quite a few, and remote. And then we have this third pattern, which is the OW pattern. OW like snow. OW has two sounds. It can say O and it can say ow. But for this sort, we're only looking for ones that say O. So we have bowling. OW says O, bowling. And we have, whoops, I dropped some on the floor. Lower. And we have owner. And on this side, we only have below. But here we have three other spelling patterns here that we might want to draw attention to. And one is that OST can say oast. And it can also say ost, like I'm lost in the woods. But it can say O. Now that we've resorted, there's a little bit of shortage of room. But here we have postage. And again, we might have to remind them what that means. And we have one other spelling pattern in the word soldier. Soldier is a tricky word. I would put it in the red words section because although the spelling pattern OLD is consistent, it says old. In soldier, you have this other weird thing happening, which I'm going to call the D saying a just sound. So hopefully you can see all that. Let me just check. Yep. So when I teach them how to spell this word, I always say there's a soldier. They know how to spell sold, but the difficult ending is the IER. So I say there's a soldier sold in every rank. So that IER can come. Soldier in every rank is how I teach that word because it just makes it a little easier. And then we can talk about the ranks and all that stuff. And that there's lots of interesting spelling words around ranks if you're a lieutenant or a colonel. And all of those are tricky red words because they come from other languages. So you have to look at that history in order to know why that spelling is that way. So there we go. That's that sort. And a nice review of some spelling patterns that make the O sound.